Today, we're going over two SPAR debate examples. Throughout these examples, you should flow the debate on a piece of paper. At the end of each debate, I will show you my flows and we can compare. Remember, everyone can have different flows, but as long as they're sort of similar, you should be fine. So let's start off with our first topic. Ice cream is better than cake. So the affirmative will argue that ice cream is better than cake, while the negative will argue that ice cream is not better than cake. Before I start the debate, I want to remind everyone about the claim, warrant, and impact structure that I will use for the arguments and the four-step refutation structure. Every argument has three things: a claim, a warrant, and an impact. Arguments are part of the constructive speech, and you should write this down. Refutation is made of 4 steps. Step 1, restate. So you want to start it off with a they say statement. Step 2, refute. You want to start that off with a but statement. Step 3, support. You want to start that off with a because statement. And step 4, conclude, which usually start with a therefore statement. And refutations are part of the rebuttal. Okay, so now let's start off with the first speech, which is the affirmative constructive speech. Ice cream is better than cake because ice cream is easier to prepare. If you've ever baked a cake, you'll know that it is a fuss to bake a cake. You have to measure ingredients very carefully, but there is a possibility that you might have made a mistake. According to the Food XP, the cake might sink while baking. There's also a chance of the cake burning. Also, nobody likes a dry cake. You'll have to make frosting or ganache for it. It's a lot easier with ice cream. You just need your basic ingredients and an ice cream maker. You just have to churn the ice cream and freeze it. The preparation process is easy and doesn't leave you with a mountain of dishes. The second reason why ice cream is better is because ice cream has more variety. Even though cake has a lot of flavors, nothing can beat the variety of ice cream. You can get a huge variety of flavors, including mainstream as well as out-of-the-box flavors with ice cream. Mainstream flavors include chocolate, strawberry, and butterscotch. The out-of-the-box flavors get a bit more creative and include flavors like rainbow, bubblegum, mint chocolate, and even cookies and cream. The third reason why ice cream is better is because it's generally healthier than cake. Both ice cream and cake have sugar and dairy in them, but cake additionally has frosting. Frosting contains high fat and sugar content, so the same serving of ice cream and cake may vary a lot in nutritional value. Okay, now let's start off with the cross-ex, and this first cross-ex is where the negative asks the affirmative questions. Why does it matter if ice cream is easier to prepare if most people buy ice cream and cake from shops? So now the affirmative might respond with, well, in general, ice cream is just easier to manage because you don't have to cut it or manage the breadcrumbs. Okay, now another question the negative might ask is, what % of people actually purchase the weirder flavors of ice cream, like pickled mango or ghost pepper? Another question the negative might ask is, how can you generalize that ice cream is healthier than cake when you yourself mentioned that ice cream has a wide variety of flavors and ingredients? So as you can see, the negative is trying to pinpoint certain points of the affirmative's case and basically pit it against them. Okay, now let's move on to the negative constructive speech. Cake is better than ice cream for 3 reasons. First, without cake, birthdays would be incomplete. Cakes are synonymous with birthdays and overall happy occasions. Cutting cake makes the celebration happier, and we can't disagree that cakes make the event more pleasant. Number 2, it is the perfect remedy for a sweet tooth. Cakes are sweet and delicious. They have frosting between the layers, and on top are overall a good comfort food. All age groups can enjoy it, and it's a great dessert for people with a sweet tooth. And 3, cake is usually cheaper per calorie. Due to cake having more calories per bite, cake is cheaper per calorie and therefore provides more bang for your buck. Alright, now let's start off with the second cross-ex. And this is where the affirmative is going to ask the negative questions. Every time I've been to a birthday party, half the people refuse a slice of cake due to how unhealthy it is. How can you be so sure that without cake, birthday parties would be incomplete? Okay. Another question would be, you mentioned that cake is cheaper per calorie, but that also means that cake can be considered to be more unhealthy because it has so many empty calories. Do you agree or disagree? Okay. Now let's move on to the affirmative rebuttal. The negative says that without cake, birthdays would be incomplete. But the fact that people refuse cakes at birthday parties highlight the fact that people don't truly enjoy cake. Therefore, ice cream can be assumed to be better than cake. The negative also says that cake is a perfect remedy for a sweet tooth. But according to BuzzFeed.com, 61% of people prefer ice cream over 39% of people that prefer cake. People would rather satiate their sweet tooth with ice cream rather than cake. The negative's final point is that cake is usually cheaper per calorie and therefore provides more bang for your buck. This point should be discarded because having more calories doesn't mean something is healthier or provides more satiation. Now let's move on to the negation rebuttal. The affirmative says that ice cream is easier to prepare than cake, but we can discard this point because the vast majority of people purchase their ice creams and cake from stores like Safeway rather than making it at home. Therefore, worrying about preparation is completely useless. Next, the affirmation says that ice cream has more variety than cake. This point can also be ignored because the top 3 ice cream flavors, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, make up 65% of ice cream consumption according to YouGov.com. Therefore, it can be assumed that people don't care so much about variety and that both cake and ice creams have an equal amount of popular flavors. The last point brought up by the affirmation is that ice cream is healthier than cake. However, we can use the affirmation's own point against them. Because ice cream has a wide variety of flavors and ingredients, it would be wrong to assume that ice cream is healthier in general. Alright, now I'm going to show you what your flow should look like. Next, we're going to tackle the topic that hip-hop is better than classical music. Let's start off with the first speech, which is the affirmative constructive speech. Hip-hop is better than classical music for 3 reasons. First, hip-hop, according to ImpactOfMusicOnTeens.com, has unified millions of youth worldwide. This is reminiscent of a time when rock music was on everyone's lips globally. The growth of the hip-hop culture is prominent in the urban street style of dressing, copied from hip-hop artists. The characteristics features of this style are baggy pants, caps worn backwards, as well as expensive sneakers, which gives teenagers a sense of identity. Second, according to the AcademyOfMusic.com, hip-hop has spoken truth to power and challenges the status quo. Protest and resistance have been common elements of the music, evoking the fight for racial equality and communicating anger at socioeconomic conditions that shape the lives of many Black people. And finally, third, hip-hop teaches you to know your own worth. A writer from Pursuit.com recounted, "It has reminded me that I have immense value to offer in many facets of my life and business, that sometimes you need to let it loose and share it with the world." In an entrepreneurial sense, this reminder has motivated me to align with the most capitalist statement in the world. If you're good at something, never do it for free. And rap has reminded me that my ability/skill set and my experience in life are things that are entirely unique to me, and that is my value. That is something that no one else has had and that I should be proud of and eager to share with the world when and where I feel like it. Now let's move on to the negative constructive. Classical music is better than rap for 2 reasons. First, Professor Schneck found that classical music helps relieve anxiety. More and more studies are finding that music helps lower cortisol levels, which are associated with stress. A post by Laudaland on how music is good for your health states that it also increases blood flow by 26%, laughter by 16%, and relaxation by 16%. Second, it can help us express our emotions. Music can express what we may never be capable of verbally, and thank goodness for that. We may have to struggle with anger, love, depression, and many other emotions and feelings. When we connect with music, we can begin to cope. It helps us to be more honest with ourselves. Research at the Southern Methodist University shows that when listening to classical music, undergraduate students were more communicative and open about their emotions. Everyone has their favorite playlist to help them when they feel romantic, lazy, or exhausted. Listening to classical music helps you express your emotions in unique ways. Next, let's move on to the affirmative rebuttal. The negation says that classical music can help relieve anxiety, but according to Rutgers.edu, listening to classical music while doing an important task can overstimulate our mental resources and distract us when overwhelmed. Therefore, classical music can't relieve anxiety. The negation also says that classical music can help us express our emotions. While this may be true, so does hip-hop, and so do all music genres. Therefore, this argument is non-unique and can be discarded. Next, let's move on to the negative rebuttal. The affirmation says that hip-hop has unified many teens, but in reality, hip-hop has perpetuated more harm than good. A recent study by the Prevention Research Center of the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation in Berkeley, California, suggests that young people who listen to rap and hip-hop are more likely to abuse alcohol and commit violent acts. The affirmation also mentions that hip-hop allows people to know their own worth. However, this argument can also be considered to be non-unique, because genres like bubble pop, country music, and rap all invoke the same emotion. I will now show you how your flows should look for this debate.